Hello, it's me, Aunty, and so I'm gonna start doing some really short videos for YouTube specifically, just detailing how I do some of my shading techniques, some of the shadows and some of the highlights. I'll be using Photoshop as my software, but some of the tools that I'll be using are really basic, so I'm only going to be using things like the selection tool, the smudge tool, and the lasso tool. And you know, I'm sure if you're using something like Clip Studio, if you're using something like Sai, those tools are very likely in there, and you can find your own techniques of doing this. So you can just play around with some of the things that I do and try and make it work for you. So here in Photoshop, we're going to take this face and we're going to turn it into this. This is what the eye's going to look like in the end. This is kind of how I've been shading eyes lately, and I've really enjoyed it. So I hope this helps people in the long run. But yeah, let me go through things really quickly on how I do it. So I'm gonna make a new layer, and the first thing I'm gonna start with is I'm gonna start shading the white of the eye. I usually use like a bluish gray, like this. I'll make a new layer. In Photoshop, there's a tool that I can use called all layers, and that means that even if I make a new layer, when I fill something, it's acting as if I'm on that layer that's got the specific picture. And if that makes sense, it's hard to explain, but basically it's acting like it's a flat image even though there's multiple layers. But anyway, in a new layer, I will fill the white with this nice dark bluish gray, like that. Cool. Then I'll get the eraser tool. I'll make it nice and soft, nice and big, and I'm gonna erase from the top so that the gradient and the shadow is coming from below, like that. And again on the other eye, like that. So you've got the shadow gradient going into the light going upwards towards the eyelid. Now play with the transparency on it. It doesn't have to be super dark. And we'll zoom out. And that's what we're looking at so far. Okay, on the same layer, I'll use the lasso tool. When you have a character that has like something hanging over the eye, say like bangs, or like, you know, some sort of hair, or a headdress or something like that, if it's over the eyes, I like to follow that so that it's sort of got like a drop shadow on it. So for example, Purity's bang here, one like that, and a little zigzag, and two again, as if it's casting a drop shadow. Then using the fill tool, I'll fill it with the exact same grey that I've just used to shade with. On the other eye here, it doesn't have anything hanging over it, so I'll just do a straight line. And I will fill it with the same blue, like that. So again, zoom out, take a little look at what you've done. Makes sense? Cool, okay. On a new layer, when it comes to like eyes, they're wet, right? So they're going to be shiny. Especially Sonic character eyes, because they're so big, so you know, you can have a lot of fun shading them. So usually what I do when it comes to shading a Sonic character's eye is I will get a solid white and I'll just do some little dashes. They get bigger and then they get smaller, and a couple on the other side of the eye. The same here, some little dashes, make them get a little bit bigger, and then stretch them out a little bit. There's no rules on this, you can do this in absolutely any way, shape or form you want. This is just how I like to add a little bit of like shininess to the eye, like that. So when you zoom out, you can just see this like little reflection going on inside the eye. Okay, let's move on to the pupil. So usually when it comes to shading a pupil, I will... Lately I don't like do it the way the Sonic team would do it, or the way I used to do it back in the day, is literally just a solid circle like this, and then you get the white and you just put a white circle, and it's very Sonic team. That makes sense if you're doing something like Sonic Channel style. This is usually the way that I'm doing it now is my own way. So when it comes to shading green specifically for me, I like to use a dark blue. It just works really well. So make yourself a new layer, and use your circle tool or your oval tool. Transform that selection and just fit it to the shape of a pupil inside the eye. and then use the fill tool and fill it. And then the same for the other eye. Make the shape of a pupil, transform selection, and fill it with that nice dark blue. So you've got like your pupils are now in place. Select that blue and select the green. So you're going to have all of the eye, the inside of the eye selected. Change your brush to a nice soft brush. Make it a little bit big. And from the top of the eye, just press nice and hard and just shade from the top of the eye that same color as the pupil. So you've got this sort of solid pupil in the middle, but a gradient effect coming down from the eye. And then when that's done, play with the transparency. Bring it down a little bit, and you've got this really nice sort of in the middle between a deep blue and a dark green. And it just looks really good. You can keep it blue if you want to, if you want it to stand out really, really sharply, but I like to lower the transparency down a little bit. Cool. So in a new layer, to do the highlight of the eye, yeah, just get a yellow. Yellow is a really nice color to shade on top of a green. And use the fill tool and just fill in that green that you've used. Again, because I can sample all layers, even though I'm in a new layer, it's acting like it's a flat image. If there's a way for you to do something like that in something like, in Clip Studio or Site, then absolutely do it. And then I'll, from this the bottom of the eye, I will erase it so that I've got this nice sharp line going right through the eye. And then if you want to, you can smudge that in a little bit if you don't want it to be too sharp, like that. And then lower the transparency. If you want it to be really sharp, you can. Again, I'm not too bothered about it being too bold, so I'll just lower it down a little bit. Cool. Okay, final layer would be to just add a reflection to the eye. Usually the way that I do eyes, specifically the reflections, is I will... honestly, it's really, really simple and basic. Do a nice solid white circle, but don't do it just inside the eye like that. Do it halfway off the eye. So you've got a little bit of the reflection coming off the pupil, but also going into the white of the eye, like that. And then with the smudge tool, I usually like to drag it a little tiny bit to the right. So it's not completely solid, it's just got a very slight blend to it, or smudge to it. Same with the other side of the eye. Nice solid circle, halfway through the line art, so half inside the pupil, half inside the white. Use the smudge tool and just drag it a little bit, and you've got these nice shiny eyes. And if you want to add extra reflections in there, you absolutely can. There's no rules on how people shade eyes. You can go absolutely crazy with it and have a great time. Absolutely do that. But yeah, that is the basic way that I like to shade my eyes. So I hope this helps in some way. I hope you guys enjoyed watching it, and I will do another tutorial on how I shade other parts of the body, such as like the nose, lips, eyelids and eyelashes. But for the time being, feel free to leave a comment